You know what, I'm the worst at microphones. Like, someone can give me a quick lav mic, that'd be great. So thank you so much, Secretary O'Neill. So in that spirit of what can we do for you, I want to move into the town, I'm not using this, the town hall portion of today. So what is it that we can help you guys with? What is it that, I think all of you saw the agenda, you know, talking about what we can help you with, and then moving into task forces and figuring out, like helping you guys help us figure out how to do all of this. And we thought right now, the reason we decided on this in the film office as the best way for this year's Education Summit was because I kept asking, like, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you guys want to talk about? And I was getting differing opinions, or no replies, or just, I don't know, whatever we can do. And so I figured this way, since, like I said, education and film are both still in the process of staffing up, it's a great time. Can you not hear me, Rob?
I hear you.
Okay, good. I saw you lean in a little. It would be a great time to kind of get you guys organizing within yourselves to give us ideas of how we can move forward. And by the time these ideas are coming more to fruition, we'll have the assets in both of our departments to really level up and do the things that we've been trying to do for the past, however many, I've only been here 2 years, so the past, few years. So I will open up the floor to you guys. What can we help you with? And then you guys will take notes over here too, right? Nothing? Oh my God, everything's perfect, yay!
Did you come up with the new head of the film office?
That's what we're waiting for, that is what this chair is in honor of. Can we get a director, please, by Saturday? That's what we love, yes.
We're interested in knowing what really the skills gap, the true survey of the needs for advancement, the shortages, really the career. Our particular lane is with CNM is the non-credit side. We've also got the credit side here. But if we can identify the opportunities and the pockets of skills gaps, then we might be in a better position to respond accordingly.
Cool. And I feel like that's something somehow, because I feel like that's one of the most important things too, is knowing how we can get our students right into the workforce.
Right.
And with that, I feel like if we could figure out something that wasn't just in every 3 years we look and figure out what's missing, but if we could figure out some kind of response from the industry of like, look, we just heard from someone who was afraid to take a locations job because they didn't have enough locations people trained. And so it's figuring out when we hear that, how to get it out to you guys, I'm guessing. Or how to get a more direct, like, these are the jobs we need.
Well, we're hearing a missing link between the people that are moving up, and there's nobody in the beginner pipeline to fill that middle zone.
Okay.
What was the field that you heard that? What areas? But it's just, there's a spread there that's a little too wide, and so whatever those positions are, that they're ready for advancement, but there's nobody to fill their shoes yet.
Okay. So I think that could, okay. So I'm a problem solver, so my brain's like, oh, that could even go with our FCAP program. When we hear someone getting promoted, we say, okay, who's going to take their place? The Film Crew Advancement Program, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Okay, so that's a really good point. Yes?
Yeah, something that I think a lot of, certainly community colleges need a little bit of a boost in, is exposure to their local high schools and the dual credit program that we have in the state. Because that is where the retention is going to come from. We're going to be able to, we need to get the promotion out there that we exist in these, so that these high school students can start taking classes in high school, so by the time they get to even the age of 18, they can enter the workforce. They will receive training, but and we do our best at Santa Fe Community College to do as much promotion as possible in the immediate area, but it's a chore. It's a big chore to do it. We don't have the budget to do it right. So give us money, perhaps. But no, just help with that. I think would be a wonderful thing. just in outreach alone.
Perfect.
So with the FTTP schools, I would like to see alignment with the union, the credit hours, and how they transfer to 4-year.
And how many, we have 4?
5.
5. Okay. Mike?
Hello, Barbara. Along with this, Tina, this is you and I'm continuing it. SFCC. You know, we're working, when we were working recently on a software project, did affinity testing. So people for no cost could come for 3 or 4 weeks and just dig in. And interestingly, they sorted themselves according to interest and ability. So you go this far and go, oops, that's not it, you know, or I'm going to do this. And I love the model, and I was trying to think if we wanted to think together somehow how to have, especially our high school kids, but everybody, we have a lot of people mid-career, midlife, changing, doing, looking. But if we could assess not only our own, you know, skills assessment, that sort of thing, that's very important, but then the interest part of it, which I then think also speaks to what you were saying, Elizabeth, about, you know, we want people who are jazzed and interested and can teamwork and collaborate. So that's what I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as we talked a little bit about comparing our educational model in New Mexico with Georgia,
Yes.
not an invidious comparison, but maybe just doing a comparison on what they're doing, because they're pretty successful, at least it looks like anyway, and how they have a Georgia Board of Regents that can institute it all over the state. We don't have that centralized ability, but I think if we could compare what they're doing with what, well, I guess we're not doing anything, but if we could compare those two models here, and maybe talk about what's successful in their model that could be used with us.
Has anyone seen the Georgia model?
Actually, it's funny, somehow I got on their mailing list, and so I actually have all of their
Beautiful.
notes,
Everything.
everything.
There we go.
From GFA, they sent it to me.
That is amazing because, yeah, Georgia has this program, and I haven't figured out because I just read it. They have 2 different programs that I know I've sent them to Liz, I've sent them, you know, I think I sent it to Secretary O'Neill as well and to Secretary Keyes. They have a program where they do have a clear pipeline from schools and specific film education classes straight into the workforce. And as Rob and I were talking about before, there is the issue of union and how do we work with that. So I do feel like that's going to be one of our big, here in New Mexico, one of our big talks. And I told Rob as well, I do have a meeting with IATSE next week, so we can also, you know, hopefully dig into this with them and be like, this is what we're seeing, and you know, we're getting great education, and then but they have to go into the workforce. And so, and then the other thing that they have is this, I feel like it's a code of excellence. It's something like that, of excellence. Starting in kindergarten, my brain sometimes has gaps, from kindergarten all the way to 12th, where they have specific media programs and their standards of excellence for each grade, starting in kindergarten for media programs. So it teaches, like, their kids from a young age, this is what we do and this is what we expect, and these are our, you know, so I mean, you could just Google it and find both of them, but yeah, it was really interesting what Georgia is doing with film, and I do think that New Mexico could really, we could figure out a way to move forward with that. And I think in every meeting like this, I always say, and I'm not an educator, so I don't know. I'm a special events planner, so I can figure out some things, but you know, that's where we need your help with the educators. So, perfect. Okay, comparison to Georgia, and then, let's see, anything else? Yay.
As a department chair, I find myself working for HED just about as much as I find myself working for my university, because we had quite a bit of, let's say, activity from the state here recently. Very happy to see the newly minted secretary here, but the film office and HED still aren't giving us the same messages. You know, we have a broken, poorly constructed common course numbering system for lower level courses, and I'm told we will be visited with upper level courses as well, common course numbering, without sufficient consultation or planning. That's just one example. You know, all of us that work for universities are beholden to HED. And so I would like to see a whole lot more discussion and coordination. Agreed.
I did speak to Secretary O'Neill this morning and told her that we do need a film liaison in HED. We need someone who specifically works with the film programs and comes to events like this and helps us, because right now we really don't. You know, I kept saying, who can come, and never got a response. So I'm like, we do need that. I agree. I think that that's really important, and to figure out how our voices, or how your voices are heard to HED. And the film office is just kind of, I feel like we're sort of like, we're trying to help, but we don't, like I said, we're not educated, we don't know, you know. And so we're trying to help on the film side, but also trying to fill that gap and trying to figure this out. So yeah, perfect. So more discussion with HED. Cool. Anthony.
Yes, related to this discussion, in fact, probably many here know about it, but in about 3 weeks, the PED will be hosting its art and / media and education conference here in San Jose, and I'm sure this very same discussion will be public education department. And of course, they understand what you are talking about now, about the importance of integrating media and into the public education system. Secretary Keys will be there, and so it'll be the 7th and 8th. I left you the invitation, if that's what anybody did. But it's the 7th and 8th here in San Jose.
Cool. And that, going back to what Milton was talking about, you know, connecting in, it's a perfect place to, start talking about these programs too, I think, you know.
Good to go ahead and try to combine those two, like down the road, just so that we get everybody in the same room and on the same page.
Funny you should say that, because coincidentally, I think it will be held across the street, because in 3 weeks, give or take, they would have been happening simultaneously. I think it would be really good if they could be, because there'd be a lot of synergy between them.
Yeah.
And they're getting people from all over the state done. So that's something that we can discuss for next year. For sure.
Yeah, I would love that. I feel like I saw a hand at this table. Yes.
This is maybe a little bit more curricular, but I think we need to come to some sort of understanding of what these terms below the line and above the line actually mean. And that we have this complete dichotomy of we have schools teaching, you know, in quotes, below the line work because it's just a payroll term, like gaffer and key grip, that do not tell their students how those fit into cinematographer and cinematographer is not an above the line position. And then there's schools that claim to teach cinematography, but don't claim to teach the, you know, things like key grip and gaffer to some capacity, with no understanding how all these really flow into one or the other. So students will come out of two-year institutions thinking all I can do is be a key grip now, and not understanding that, well, no, you're actually on your path to becoming a cinematographer. And then students will come out of four-year institutions, well, I'm on my path to become a cinematographer, but not understand, well, no, you need to understand how light works. That's just kind of common sense. And maybe just eliminate above the line and below the line from our vocabulary altogether, being that most of us seem not to know what that even means.
My brain's I keep having this conversation with people down at Netflix is here that everyone's talking about. Well, now that Netflix is here, they're going to do this. And I was like, here's the big thing that I think everyone, you know, that I keep preaching this, that I know, because Dirk's still in the room, I know he's heard me say this a bunch of times, where Hollywood is Hollywood and it's not going to change for us. And so I feel like if they're coming in with above the line, below the line, it's never going to change. You know, like they're going to want, if you're going to want to be a director, you need to shadow a director. You need to start in the thing. So that's what I'm like, I love the idea of it. I don't think it's going to, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
but
we need to
figuring
know
out
how
define it. Yeah.
these points actually, you know, like when you get hired as a grip, that's a huge step towards becoming a cinematographer.
So teaching maybe
how
the
this actually
trajectory.
all fits in together in the end, because everybody sees these as two completely different worlds.
Yeah.
And they're
And
one
they're
and the
not.
same.
Yeah, they
And, you
are,
know,
yeah.
and that, you know, and problematically it becomes that kind of idea, why isn't Netflix hiring more above the line people? You might as well ask, well, we can't build a Walmart here because the CEO from Walmart's not from New Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just, I don't understand the sense of entitlement that we tend to have over the film industry sometimes. And that's why the film industry can't hire above, you know, like, we're not going to have cinematographers hired from New Mexico that don't understand gaffer or key grip work.
That haven't
It's
already
never
come
going to
up the
happen.
system. Yep, and that's
And
it.
we
Yeah.
need to find some way to, you know, make that language somewhat common so we all understand
Yeah.
it. So the kids who end up being electricians after school know that they can become gaffers one day.
Right, but
So-
there
and
is a
eventually
career path.
cinematographers, so their jobs aren't just replaced once we switch to LED lighting technology. You know, this has become like a real problem in film education of people just not knowing how one leads to the other or how one is reliant on the other.
Right, okay. Have you seen, this may not be what you're talking about, but have you seen on the film website under careers, we have this big old chart that is the trajectory of positions?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we need to, you know, and that's
Yeah.
like on the film website, but I don't know that we're really making that clear
Yeah.
in general, how the two-year institutions actually can lead into the four-year institutions.
Okay,
And things like that.
career paths and then 2
I
years.
love everything you're saying over there, and I think, I just barged. I'm thinking back here, I was at a meeting with a tech fire thing, and someone said, oh, don't worry, you know, you would have continuing ed. We're not competing with you. I said, compete, we're not. I'm on this thing in our state. I'm not here to compete, and I'm not an it's us. It's us. These are our kids, my grandkids. This is everybody. We're in it together. But if we and our kids can feel good, and any of what age people, if we can find these ways of that self-assessment, you know, and interest, all this stuff, and our youth, and then we do exactly what you're saying, but we have a common picture, a real one, of what that thing is. But then we can all look at what are the teeny things that we can do. I'm always sending people over to C&M, or I'm sending them over to our UNM here to James, you know, and up to IA, and with us. But if it's for them, and we have so much resource, if we could figure out who can do what parts at given times. There's just, there's so much competition in one sense. And I don't think that we need that among us, you know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, yeah, totally.
Okay. It's not Pollyanna. I love being this age because I can see anything.
Well, let's put on a show.
Fred Nike, and then Luke and Milton. So our program has evolved over time at CNM, and kind of speaking to what Rick was talking about, we started very much in the early days of the crew training, and we've evolved to the point where we now have an AAS and an AS, a transfer degree, to actually, we have a real close alignment with the Seattle Film Institute. But we would be very open to more conversations with NMSU and UNM about how we can move our two-year students into UNM and NMSU programs. We've started those conversations, but it hasn't really taken hold yet, and I think that's an area where we could really use some help from the earlier schools.
But, you know, could we just start, like, make a little, everybody hates the word committee, a little something, right? Like, I'd love to work with you.
You, I should say.
Hi. Okay, I'm Mark, and I'm UNM. But if we could just actually go home today with, I'm going to talk with James now. And we sit here, and we figure this out, and Hobbs sit down together, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're planning on doing.
Oh.
This afternoon is getting task force made so that we can all, or committees or groups or whatever we want to call it. I keep using different names.
I did read you.
Oh no, you're fine. And also, just speaking to what Martha said, let's say our names when we start talking too, so that way we all kind of get to know each other too and where we're from. So yes.
Hi, I'm Tim Forrest. I'm an economics for the union here. Another great model to look at is the Cal State model. I participated in that. And they have all the community colleges also are very much their own independent film school. But at the same time, they're sending students to Cal State LA, to Northridge, Santa Monica Community College, and they've all had really reputable film programs. Mission College in particular, which is in the northeast San Fernando Valley, where a lot of the film production is moving for cheaper real estate closer to Santa Clarita, they have a really dynamic film program. And they do bring in people from the industry, and they will try to put people directly into the industry, but also one of the huge, incentives is to put people into the four-year system, into the Cal Arts system. And since both of those schools, the community colleges and the Cal State systems are funded, by the state, have a common funding, I think it's easier. I don't know if that is a hitching, sort of a stumbling block, and I don't know enough about, how education is funded in New Mexico to really know that, but that's one of the things they do really well, is to be able to move students back and forth between the schools, and then put people into the industry, because they've been doing it for quite a while.
And I like to get everything Rick had to say also. I think trying to look at cross-training between above the line and below the line, those distinctions on there so that you have an understanding of what's happening within the programs, but also looking at transferable skills. And this could go ahead and go outside of the actual programs that we have with the accounting programs. We currently don't have anyone who, we're at a shortage for accountants for the film industry, and that seems like a skill that we could go ahead and train people up pretty quick. The other one that I'd like to look at is maybe housing, where we have unused housing in the summertime over at UNM. We can go ahead and put people from eastern New Mexico in those houses for about $175 per week and give them a global food card, and then have them out on the studios where they get the experience that they can't get with your physical location. Same thing with Lovington. It would be great to go and get some of the people from the two-year college out there, up in this area.
No.
Yeah, actually, just piggybacking on what you said, is I think that, again, it gets back to outreach, that I think the New Mexico Film Office can actually help, and that's just simply getting the word out that all the colleges here and universities, we teach more than just film. And it's important that we fill out the ranks of the film crews, everything from film accountants down to welders, and everybody in between. We have teaching certification programs, so on-set teachers. We have culinary arts. We have everything that is needed in the film industry. Every school, every college here in this room has every position on a film covered. They just don't know it. I mean, the people don't know it. And if they want to get into the film industry, they don't have to go into become a grip electric. There's a lot of other positions, from set medics, everything. And most of the schools here can do that, but we need help getting that word out, because that's going to be benefit to the film industry as a whole, because there's going to be ongoing, there's going to be less of a shortage in certain positions that way, but also it's going to help our enrollment that is generally declining. And that's, it's just, again, I think it's just outreach, that we just don't have the resources, financial generally, to really do the job the right way. And I mean, I've even put in a budget request specifically, increase specifically just for outreach and promotion, dealing with exactly what we were both just saying. Oh, by the way, I'm Milton from Santa Fe Community College.
Okay.
I'm Luis from Hobbs Community College. Something that I'm kind of figuring out is, you have a message, like we have cosmetology, we have welding, we have all that stuff. But we also have video capabilities to record a video as an educational, hey, did you know? Why can't we do that and just post it on social?
Yeah.
You know? I think social could be a big contributor to the growth of all our colleges. So.
Yeah, and one of the other things that just dawned on me too is when you are doing film work within your schools, are you reaching out to those other departments, reaching out to culinary and saying, hey, can you do craft services on our set?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You are? Okay, good, good, good.
In fact, we're also producing commercials for the different departments. We have interns that are actually producing high-end 30-second commercials for the various departments to promote self-promotion, but also it gives the advanced students in the two-year degree plan, it gives the advanced students a skill that's going to be saleable in the outside world. You know, when they're not going to get into the union or they're not going to get into the bigger films, they can still have the bread and butter work. So it's a win-win-win.
So I'm Kenneth Butchich, I'm Luna Community College, Las Vegas. I have 3 different things, and this actually ties into what they're talking about. The last time that we met, we talked about the possibility of our different programs working with New Mexico True, that brand that's already established. Mm-hmm. How do we actually bridge that gap, whether it's for our media artists to design billboards, whether it's doing commercials potentially in-state instead of bringing out-of-state crews and whatnot. I think that's important in terms of having a conversation. One thing I'd like for us to try and see about starting the conversation on is the possibility of scholarships and grants for some of our students. That might be the obstacle that's preventing them from even being able to take your courses. Is financially they can't afford what we're charging to do this. So maybe partnering with the New Mexico Film Office to develop a grants and scholarships program. I don't know if it already exists or if it's something that we need to do for our students and figure out a way of how we can do that for New Mexico. And then lastly, the Give Back program that already exists, how do we fix that and make sure that it's a little bit more transparent? How do we make it structured to where every institution actually has an opportunity to tap into that incentive in a proper rotation, instead of if you call back first, you're going to be the one that gets it kind of thing, right? We want to make sure that every institution, since there's so many, gets a little something at least, because our equipment and software and everything in between is obsolete 6 months later.
I'm wondering if that's because I don't run that program, but I do for me, I'm like, oh, I request a spreadsheet and I see it, but I'm internal. I'm also wondering, because I have thought about that program a lot, and I feel like it's really interesting the way that we do it is that it goes school by school by school by school, and would it be better, and I don't know if this is possible, I'm just throwing out an idea, if let's say, I just found out that Messiah wrote a check to someone, I don't know who in here got it, or who's getting it, or if they've announced it yet. Would it be better if that check, instead of a $10,000 check going to one school, it was divided by the schools that are on the list?
Or if it was pooled into some sort of production fund or a grants and scholarship fund or...
Okay, so...
I don't just not... There's
any sort of transparency.
Any sort of transparency. Because last time Nick spoke to us, it just seemed kind of like... We didn't even know where the money... I asked him, I said, so where's it go? And he goes, well, there's a list, and people would just generally pick a school off the list, and the list is in the same order every time, so I imagine schools that were at the top part of the list would get more. Sometimes maybe they were shooting in a particular community, interacted with that institution, so they said, okay, let's go with that institution. But it wasn't clear at all how, and it wasn't transparent at all.
Yeah, my understanding was that the list was in the same order, and we would just say, here's the next school on the list, write their check, unless they...
That's not what he said. No, maybe...
Okay. I don't know, though, yeah. Again, it's not, Lisa Lucas runs that, but I can bring that up in our office for sure to figure that out, because it does sound like... And I've also heard that sometimes when the schools do get the money, there is a little bit of it's not actually spent on the film program, so sometimes it's not going to the right place or somehow earmarked correctly.
Right, that wouldn't happen with Santa Fe Community College. And then the other thing that came out of our discussion last time, and I went and brought copies of the notes if anybody wants copies of the minutes. I don't know if I have those for enough for everybody. But we went in and talked about the Santa Fe University of Art and Design, what happened with the equipment over there, and I went in and talked with Mateo and Milton about that one. I contacted Kerford, and that's one of the few things that they have to go ahead and make revenue on the Santa Fe University of Art and Design. They're renting out those camera units on there. But just another thought on the film payback, instead of going ahead and giving that and splitting out $20,000 between 4 institutions, going ahead and finding somebody that needs some equipment that's in desperate need. We go ahead and take care of those people, but also go ahead and set up a fund where we have the equipment where you can go ahead and use it in an intercollegiate loan system of some kind. Not sure how that would work, but it might be something.
On this topic, I'm Amy from CMI. I miss you. I'm sorry I'm late. It's a long drive. We've only gotten funds once, and we didn't know it was coming, right? It was like this surprise that came out of nowhere. And so it was a great surprise, but it also was like then a conversation with my faculty about how do we use this and make it most meaningful for our program, and where are those extra priorities. So it seems to me like it would make more sense for it to be in a pool some way, whether it was for scholarships and grants for students or student productions, or for some of our programs to come together and say, we have this really legit need right now, because it was a great gift, but it wasn't enough for us to do the things we really needed to do with. And so honestly, like, we have it sitting in a foundation account waiting for more of it to come so that we can actually purchase the things that we really need. And so it seems to me that there's got to be a better way to organize that to make it more useful for all of our programs as well as our students. Sure. Hi.
Yeah, I worked with Lisa on this thing a little bit. Dirk Norris from the New Mexico Film Foundation. And one of the problems with that list was it's a bean counter that selects the school. It's not a producer or director. So unless a school stands out to them that they know, they're just going to pick whatever's at the top of the list. So she was taking whichever one was at the top of the list and got money and moved that to the bottom, and then the next one moves up to the top, so it gets, it's above the fold or whatever. The program overall, I think, is kind of problematic because I don't know if it takes into account all the educational institutions in New Mexico or any organization that has a teaching program, a program that educates people in film. For instance, continuing ed, or any of the nonprofits that have educational programs, or any of the high schools, and I think there's 600 or something like that. So at least I think revisiting how that whole program works is worth the time.
Is it in the law, do you know?
Pardon me?
Is it in the law?
Yeah, it's a statute, but it's at the discretion of the New Mexico Film Office of where the money goes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I really have to state again that the way, because we've received a little bit of money periodically at Santa Fe Community College, and the film department has seen zero of it because it went into the general fund, and it needs to absolutely be earmarked for the film departments in various schools, because I didn't even realize we'd received it. It went into the general fund, and for some reason our administration decided to keep it a secret. And it's like, really? The only reason I even found out about it was because I ran into Nick, and he said, hey, I think you guys got a little bit of money. And I said, excuse me, what? And I went back, inquired, and it's like, oh yeah, we went into the general fund. That's the only reason why I heard it.
Well, so Milton, you have a history at Santa Fe Community College where it always goes to the general fund. It goes way back to Richardson. Yeah. So you've got a tradition that I guess they want to uphold.
I guess that's it. Yeah. So I think every time we had a good revolution.
Mark, I'm not sure where this fits. I know that Tina, right, and ourselves, I don't know who else in the room, but workforce, workforce money. So, and Tech Hire New Mexico, they're down to the last 18 months and they have to use that money. And I'm really trying to convince them it's not just IT, which is so important, but I started kind of going, hey, what about the cyber side of things in film to try to get money for people who want to study that, and we can offer that. With everything moving, all these data all over the place, we need that in film too. And as you were saying, project management, the numbers of requests we've had from people in film who walk in the office and say, what kind of project management program do you have here? And we happen to have it. I think we could all get together and customize it for those of us who, have that flexibility. Because what we do have, is the big PMI certification, but if we could focus it in, so it's more directly targeted. And somehow, I know UNM for credit does not accept, the university doesn't accept WIOA funds, workforce funds, because they say it's too much paperwork. And yet the numbers of people who could benefit from the 4 years, if they, so maybe we could have those interested, a campaign to say, that's our money, come on, put it in our schools. Workforce.
Subsidy funding, state subsidy funding. Right. I just think we should really be encouraged that we are the fifth largest sandbox in the nation, literally sand. So we, I think it's very wonderful to think about collaborating and coming together rather than any kind of competitiveness. I think there's no room for that because it's just too big of a sandbox. The opportunity is too big. Not a single one of us can do this alone. We absolutely have to work together. It's better for everybody in New Mexico and certainly the industry we serve. And so I'm like really encouraged. I definitely want to consider it.
And that collaborative effort, that goes back to the original list program, when it was the media strategy, when it was drafted up. So, and that's how all the institutions were envisioned to go to work
Good.
together.
Awesome. Well, it's never too late. We're here today.
I think so.
Let's do it.
Better days ahead.
Right.
My name's Elizabeth, and I'm from Stagecoach Foundation. And so I'm curious, I don't know the specifics, but the Give Back program, is it in the law specific that it has to go to an education institution?
Right now.
Okay. Because maybe the Give Back program it becomes an internship tool that is linked through the film office that creates funding for students to have the opportunity to be interns on production.
You're talking about something different. The give back that they were, so the give back is all tied to the NRCE program. Does everyone know about this? So there's, the NRCE is the non-resident crew exception, which means that 2.5% of the salaries that of the people that you're bringing in from outside of New Mexico, you have to give back to New Mexico. That's where the money that we're talking about comes from. One other aspect of the Give Back program is that we have an internship program, and so they can use their NRCE fund or pay off their NRCE in a number of ways. So we have interns that they can put on set. Jess over here is one of our fabulous, well, we have three interns, Jess, Michelle, and Adam, but Jess is one of the best success stories recently that we've had. She went to work on Stargirl as an NRCE Give Back to, take some of that 2.5% salary, and then Whit from there is now gone with the same team over to another TV show. So it's like we're trying to help them get their thing started. So that's the part of the NRCE that you're talking about. There's also give back funds that we donate to the schools.
Okay.
So then,
yeah. Kind of, but that internship NRC that you're referring to, is that being shared with the institutions that those students are being connected to those internships? So that internship that you're just talking about with this young lady, did she get that opportunity through the film office, or did she get it through the institution?
Through the film office.
Right. So
but you have to either be currently enrolled or within 1 year out. And so since you said you haven't heard about this, but you can also do
I do hear about go and answer phones.
Right.
They want to go work on productions.
Right.
I'm in Roswell. Everything's happening in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. My students graduate. What do I have to do? How do I get up there? So is there a way that the film office could be putting out email blasts saying, hey, here's our applicant pool, apply here, get started.
With the internship program?
Yeah, some way our students have a connection towards that internship.
Yeah, there's, all they have to do is email me, and then literally I will.
I know, but I'm thinking if there's a way, like, they can go to your guys' website.
Yeah.
They fill out an application.
Yeah.
And then identify where the housing is, because if they're coming from Roswell,
there's housing, there's food,
if there's any empty housing over at the Santa Fe University of Art and Design, can't we go ahead and put the students in there?
Yeah, that's got to be discussed, because it's great that in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and I'm not picking on Albuquerque, Santa Fe, but that's great they live there. But it becomes Hobbs, it becomes Roswell, it becomes a Las Cruces problem when they're not getting their needs met at the same level that an Albuquerque, Santa Fe student is.
Well, one of the things that's just part of the nature of the beast too, though the film industry is located closer to an airport.
That's fine.
But one of the other things that we have said, and we've said it to all the liaisons, and I thought I'd said it to educators too, is they can intern with the local film liaison and have that count towards the state film office requirements so they could intern in Roswell with Juanita, and then she could let us know they're interning with you guys, and we could be in connection, and then when they get to Albuquerque, then they are already qualified to be part of the NRC, or if something's shooting in Roswell, they can be part of the NRC Give Back pool.
Okay, so my question is, how does that help a career? How does that help a?
Yeah, you guys are missing out on the opportunity
How-
of some really great.
How does that help? I mean, I already have interns that work with Juanita, but there's not enough film production in Roswell to really supply that need.
Well, I can't move film production in
I know,
Roswell,
I'm
but
saying
if
that.
they're moving up,
Yeah.
and they're working with Juanita lets me know, and then when a production wants to use interns as their NRC Give Back, I send the list of people that we have. So if you have 5 interns and Juanita says, hey, these 5 interns came out of Roswell, they're interning with me, they're able to work in Albuquerque now. I mean, I can't, I mean, I know Luke's been talking about housing, which is an issue. So I'm not sure how to solve that problem, just because, you know, everyone else who.
So that would work. I went ahead and took 6 students and I sent them to the West Green Screen Studio for a week. And that's as long as I'll go and trust a group of students up in Albuquerque on their own. But I had them up there for 7 days and they went ahead and worked through equipment safety and then went ahead and worked on producing public service announcements and a couple of other things. They stayed at UNM housing. There's empty housing during the summertime, and then you can get a logo food card so that they're not going to starve, you know, while they're up there. And then you bring back. So it can be done on there.
So just finishing up though on the we get them PA jobs. If the production reaches out to us, we send the list of possible PAs, and then they get interviewed and hired on. So it's whatever department production can use them in. We don't have a placement program, which is what I think you're asking about.
Mateo Fraser, Northern New Mexico College. I think the thing is that everybody who's in the business knows that the value of an internship might exceed the value of the certificates and credentials that we offer our students in terms of their success in the industry. I mean, it really is that much capital involved in it, right? So I think that's the issue, is that, you know, folks that have access and have deep Rolodexes and have connections tend to do well in this industry. Students in rural places that don't necessarily have those ins really do struggle to make realistic connections, and like finding ways to get productions where they can collaborate and work together, I think is a key thing, right? I mean, so many things happen for me professionally when we're making movies through doing work on other people's films and then sharing that labor across other people's films, and then that becomes your network, and then that's how people get into the industry. And I think a lot of rural students don't feel like they get the same access. So I'm wondering if, like, maybe the studios, like I keep hearing Netflix, I know Santa Fe Studios and Roswell and some other things, if they'd be willing to commit a certain number of positions that, you know, that we could, there'd be a pool that all of our students could equally compete for an opportunity on those internships. You know, if they'd be willing to offer that. I don't know.
I have heard that there is, I briefly heard it, so I can't speak to it, that there is talk of an apprenticeship program that the state is trying to do. It just hasn't come all the way down to us yet.
Right.
But that would be something that, yeah, I think, you know, figuring out how to help the rural students with the internship program and all that.
And I spoke last night with Delaney Marsh. He went in and recently opened up a studio. It's a very small studio with his half a cyclorama that has rigging in there for doing visual effects where you can go and fly people up and down. It's a 13-foot vertical wall on there. But he has connections with the 480 and things like that. So we're just, you know, in the initial conversation to see, is there something that can happen? He has 2 different spaces he mentioned, and then he also has land where people can go and film. So we're talking possibly having a couple of days of theory and then actually going ahead and learning how to use things and then making introductions and, you know, see if we can get something to happen. But it seems like with all the activity out here, there should be something to go and get somebody from Roswell out there, to go and get somebody from Hobbs up here, where all the action is. Because it's hard, you know, we're not going to be able to go and bring the studios down to Farmington or anything like that. They have to be near the airports.
Neil Rutland, ENMU. Back to the other half of this that we were talking about. If we ever hit our lottery number again, because I say that it is a bit opaque to us, we would turn around and put that all into scholarships, and it wouldn't be for scholarships for recruiting. It would be for scholarships to help students stay in school. And so if there's a restructuring of that, I would really like to see some thought given to returning students rather than trying to attract students. Because most universities, the four-year schools are kind of notorious for this, and the two-year schools, to a lesser extent, it's about getting the students in. But then they're sophomores, they're juniors, and they're running out of money. And so I'd like to see some,
student retention.
I'd really like to see some money go there.
I feel like that it feels like it's kind of umbrellaing the give back with scholarship, grant, student retention, all that to be under one, figuring out how to work that. Am I right? Okay. Well, grab.
Yeah, I think as far as the discussion goes, with disbursement of money from things like Netflix, there's a bill now, Senate Bill 2, and it was written by a Republican. It needs to be modified by a Democrat in some way. But one of the things you could do is you could put a percentage of those people who come from out of state, which Netflix is doing already, a percentage of the money that they're going to allot to those people goes into the fund that is dispersed throughout the state for education. So if you took 1.5% of that, everybody pays, because what Netflix does is they bring in other productions, right? Other UPMs, other LLCs. And whatever production comes in, if 1.5% of that production would go to the state educational fund that we could divide, then you have a consistent replenished supply of money, which means that they're going to want to employ our people, since a percentage of their money is going to our education for our workers, right? So we need to examine Senate Bill 2, we need to modify it, that is more pro-education. And also, we need to modify it so that the number of people who are employed by the productions coming into New Mexico is raised percentage-wise, not lowered, which is what this bill does. Okay? Something like that. In other words, the film office should be
the film office is looking. It's just not
should be apprising educators here on what is in legislation so that we could benefit or modify it.
Right. I do know that there is. I think the reason that they're lowering that, honestly, is you know what? Never mind. I'm not even talking about it because I haven't read the bill. I'm like, it's so not mine. But yes, I know that the film office is looking at the bill. And I know that our statistician and our lawyers are doing that.
Nick Mondatis wrote the bill. He now works for Netflix, so it's going to be pro-Netflix, not pro-New Mexico.
Right. Okay.
So we need to change that.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Yay! I don't know. Does anyone have time? What time is it? Okay, perfect. So we're almost right on time because lunch I can see is being set out right now. So, okay, I'm trying to read over my notes. Any other thoughts, ideas, anything else? Yes.
James Levon. So coming from a program that is designed to support above the line, I think it would be helpful to for the state to create or reboot some of the programs that support screenwriters, producers, directors, acting showcases, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Greg, you mentioned that one of those programs as well to me, the $20,000 filmmaker thing. I listened.
The Director's Cup, and then there was the other, not the New Mexico Filmmakers Intensive, the other one.
Yeah, I mentioned the Governor's Cup.
New Visions? Was it New Visions?
Yeah.
The Governor's Cup?
New Visions, Milagro Los Luceros, and Filmmakers Intensive.
Cool. Okay.
Director's Cup was great for us.
Yeah.
I have just one last one on there. This goes back to what Milton was talking about earlier about the dual credit. We're trying to go into track students and marketing. But I think going into marketing to out-of-state students on there, I went and did a price breakdown to go and see how much it would cost to go for tuition at UCLA, and I went and brought those things with me. And the other film schools that are out there, also for-profit schools. In Mexico, we have everybody eat, even with out-state tuition on there. So one thing that you could do is, there's a couple of different strategies you can do to go ahead and bring in new students to New Mexico, and that would be new tax revenue into the state. And then if you go to help, if anybody has programs where the numbers are slightly low, you go and make sure that all your classes meet. So, well, okay, then send some over to Farmington, and you know, if anybody else has a program, or you're trying to find students. Sangamon County, we're the fastest shrinking town in the U.S. right now. We have two coal fire plants, 2 mines, and they're getting ready to shut down. So, you know, we're looking at about $50 million in loss of tax revenue per year, and that's going to go hit a whole bunch of people.
Do you guys know about the Western Undergraduate Institution? There's this whole list of states that there's this thing set up where if you're a member of LUI, and it's like California, Washington, it's the Western states, their obviously tuition is waived.
Okay. Well, there's other ways to attract them. You can go and offer merit-based scholarships, and you're still making money to go get the out-of-state students on there. And then
once I found out about LUI, it got really easy to get out of state.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then if we had scholarships off some of the things that come back, we can go and help our New Mexico resident students go and do the classes.
I was like, are you ready? No.
I just kind of want to come back around. Is the NRC Internship Program really predominantly just controlled by the film office to generate those internship connections?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So many of you probably noticed that the film industry has a competing messaging that we don't need an education to get into the film industry. It's the soft skills and the opportunity to get your foot in the door. And so we're competing with different messaging on how to get people into the jobs. And so it feels like if there's a way, which is where I was trying to get to in my initial question, was how to share those internship opportunities equitably amongst all the people, all the programs that are in the room, so that they're part of being able to create candidacy for those choices. That was the direction.
Yeah, so they can all intern with their local film liaisons and be a part of our program.
I got that part. I think it's some of the messaging that I'm hearing in the room though is that the opportunity of actually being on set and being in the actual production space of things, those opportunities, that's where you actually start getting jobs.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of what I was saying was that we can't tell productions that they have to go out to Farmington so that they can use their interns. It's the students have to come to where the productions are, and that's what Luke was talking about, was how to set up housing in those areas for them.
Right. I guess it's the equity of message of how institutions are informed of the opportunity, or do those institutions have to be the ones that are perpetually checking in on the film office to help?
Our internship program is open year-round. All they have to do is email me and say, here's what I'm looking for, or, you know, I have an intern, I interned in this film office. The film liaison has to let me know that they interned with them, and then they just have to tell me. I mean, it's not like here's our open enrollment for this, and here's what we're going to do. You have to do a minimum of 32 hours. It's 6 weeks, 1 day a week in the film office, or in your local offices. Yeah.
I think that it's actually really funny to talk about we're not getting people on set. And somebody said, what good is answering phones going to do our students? Actually, having been on feature film sets, and I make this joke that the best training for our students would be if I set up a row of 8 phones and have them answer each phone in less than a ring. Because you get into the production office, And then you also, once you're in the production office, you learn how to change out trash bags. Because that will introduce you to everybody who's going to be on set. And it goes back to this sense of entitlement that I think sometimes New Mexico has over the film industry of, if you're not willing to get, if that internship, that's not on set, so I'm not gonna take it. You're not ever gonna get on set.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shocks me to hear that people are turning down these intern opportunities. If you go from working, calling people who are gonna be in the production office, then you can go into the production office. And almost everybody on a film set starts in the production office. That's one of the big gateways. That's how, everybody starts. So there's this strange thing of, well, that internship isn't good enough or something like that. And, you can question internships, but
it's more about
never,
access and geography and overcoming that stuff. Getting our students, because I agree, you can't make a move of production, right? Yeah. We have some interns up in Española. Can you take your production up to, no, you can't do that. But I think it's just more about maybe messaging a little bit more. Like, I did read that on the website recently, but I don't know if that was really known by everybody that was, and I'm sure you're doing it for the people that are contacting you. I just don't know if it is really well known that that's how that worked, And then if you get a student overcoming the transportation issues, the logistical stuff, a lot of our students don't have the credit card, right? So, and that's what a lot of students need when you're getting on a film, right? You need to have the access. Can you go get this? Can you do that? And how can we address those disparities or those challenges for our students so they get the same access? Because once you've proven yourself and you build relationships, then you're off, you know what I mean? But you got to get them over that initial hump.
Well, that's what, I tell every one of our interns too. I'm like, once you get on set, whatever department you get into, go introduce yourself to the department that you want to be in. Because that's how. And
then bring them coffee.
Yes. And then send them your resume every time you work on another production. Be like, I'm free again. Here's my latest resume. They don't even send it to me. So, but it's really, it is just, I'll look at how folks, we'll have internship be one of the ideas that we're talking about. And I'll look at how we got on our website today. As you all know, we just got a new website. Hi.
I teach at the Mexico School for the Arts. It's a premier arts and performing arts charter high school here in Santa Fe. And we have students who are starving for internships. I'm just wondering what's in place right now to cater to the high school age population.
For
internships, yes.
18, we have to get a consent form from their parents, and they can do the same, Yep, and then getting them on set would have to be dependent on the production if they're willing to take high school students and work around school schedules. Like the great thing with Stargirl was that Disney had you had to be enrolled in school after your first semester and within having graduated within the last 6 months. And so because that was their line, that's what they were saying, they were able to work around every school schedule. So I'm like, well, if you're going to say they have to be in school, you have to work around schedules. So they were able to take people and just work around their class schedules, which was great. But yeah, high school, we're open, as long as they're enrolled in school. I have no problem with it.
Is there a current precedent for high school students working on set?
I haven't. Most of our high school students have only come in for their internship to do there's some schools in Albuquerque that have like a 3-week internship at the end of their senior year. And those are the only ones, and they haven't gone on to ask me. Like basically what I do is I literally email all of our interns and say, send me your availability, update your resume with me, and then I make my list from that. And anyone who responds back, so our high school students haven't actually responded back to that. And I really do make it like you have to be accountable for yourself. Like I send them an email. It's crazy what I see. Like people email me about internships, I send the exact same email every single time, and about 1 in 3 will actually respond back, and then I set up an interview with them. So yeah, our high school students so far haven't pursued getting on set.
Can I just mention New Mexico Girls Make Movies is an organization for young women 12 to 25 and helping train them and get them PA jobs on set.
You are familiar with that?
Yeah, that's a fantastic program. And then Stagecoach also has some training programs and internships. Yes, sir.
Yeah, traditionally, high school students aren't asked to be interns on sets because they're taking a job from a union person. So they'll defer to college programs that are getting people who are union ready, like on the overflow list. But to have them supplanted by a high school student raises the ire with Yahtzee 480 and everybody else. So that's not going to happen. They also have to be covered with workman's comp insurance, and high schools are not usually in a place to do that. So that's something that just really isn't discussable.
Maybe I have information I didn't have. And most of our interns usually, when they talked about them during the pre-production meetings, they usually ask for them to be paid PAs on set. So 9 times out of 10.
And the PA's TGA, so it's not going to conflict with any union.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yes.
Real quick, on your website, I see you have an education link, and then it says, coming soon, this page will list secondary education institutions. So are you going to be, how are you going to be setting that up, or is there a way we can provide you with information?
I would love to be provided with information. I have been trying to get information since I started this job on exactly who all, and at the, I got a great list in November from you guys. But I still don't feel like we have all the high schools, I don't feel like we have secondary education. I feel like there's no, I asked HEB, I asked everyone for that list. So yes, that would be fabulous, that would.
Great.
And then I have to remember, because again, I don't know if any of you have looked at the New Mexico Film Office website. It is deep and there's a lot of information. So seeing gaps like that also is a great reminder of secondary education. Okay. So I see that it looks like lunch is set up. Does anyone have any last thoughts, any other things they want to add to our list? Yes.
Hi, can I add on to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a student at CNM and I'm taking the cruise certificate right now. We're all actually taking the cruise certificate right now. It's great at CNM. So I think the problem is keeping the students inspired, to stay with the film programs. So inspiring students to keep them motivated while we wait for an opportunity to open in the film program, in the film productions is the key, I think, to so just push us by being supportive and having hands-on projects to learn and to stay, to be creative and just keep us open-minded. So indie films, push us to do our own films at the same time while we wait for an opportunity to open for us. So I think that it's great, and it's hard to keep productions coming, I know that they're coming, but also we can do our own stuff in the meantime, and so that way, we're inspired, and I think that's the big thing, just to stay inspired.
Barb, can I ask one quick question?
Yes, you can, sir.
So, Dirk Norris with the New Mexico Film Foundation, and for 2 years, Luke and John Barr from ENMU and I put together a student filmmaker showcase, where each school could submit up to 3 student films, plus a special effects reel, and they would be judged, and then we had a ceremony and screened the best of films. We didn't do it last year because it seemed like the enthusiasm for it had kind of died away. So I'm asking if you guys are interested in doing something like that, we'll continue it, and I'll contact everybody. Because I think it's really great for the schools to be able to see what work is being done by other schools, because they never get a chance to do it. Each school has their own showcase, but you don't get to see what's being done in other schools. And it's also an opportunity for the public to be able to see what work is being done by all the schools in the state, which I think is a real advantage. How many people would be interested in continuing that?
Is that up here? Up here in Albuquerque?
Well, we post them all online.
Yeah, but where's the ceremony?
The ceremony has been, here. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing with the showcase, we've gone ahead and found people that are in the industry that are outside New Mexico. Again, it's to go ahead and draw attention to what we're doing in the state.
As judges.
To go ahead and get people excited about what's happening here.
Yeah, getting judges from outside of the state, from educational institutions that have film programs. So one thing that does is reduce the issue of conflict of interest. And the other is, like Luke said, bring more attention to the programs and the educational institutions in the state. So I'll just, they're like half of you seem to be interested, so I'll contact everybody and we'll rock and roll with it. Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? I think it would be fun if we all chose a night to screen the showcase at our various campuses. Like we were all showing it at the same night all over the state. And do some kind of live feed to like connect, because you're right, like we don't see what our students are making outside of our own programs, and yet they are all going to be working together ostensibly if they stay here in the state at some point. So it'd be great to let them realize there are people beyond the 3 classrooms at CMI, right?
Right.
I would be happy to help coordinate that at least on my campus.
Okay. Yeah, it's a terrific idea, and I can send Blu-rays to everybody of all the films. And we have tried in the past to have an event where students could come from all over the state and have a mixer and see all the award-winning films, but it's just been difficult to find a venue and get people from Roswell or Farmington or around the
Well,
state.
in Allen Theaters, the big Allen Theaters Corporation, they love us.
They're all over.
Yeah.
And so we should host at Allen Theaters. We actually put it in the theater.
Yeah, we've got 11 around the state, and we have worked with them in the past with our Life in New Mexico program, where they showed our films all the same weekend in all the states. And if they'll return my emails, I'd be happy to get a hold of them.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we do even the
Right.
small little 15-minute student films. You just show them one night in the theater.
Right.
They're really open to us.
So we'll do that too.
We'll screen it.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to piggyback on that too. Right now, we are open for submissions for the Mexico Filmmaker Showcase, which is through the film office. There is a student category, and then we also have 7 other categories. So if your students are making films, it's free to enter as well. And it's it's similar to DIRC, except we're not. We are open to all New Mexico filmmakers, so even your graduates. And our showcase is open now through March 22nd. And if anyone's interested in judging categories other than students, you can feel free to email me, because we will be looking for judges soon. So, but yeah, they're and I think that's a great program, and I love seeing the interest in that and come back too. So, okie doke. Anyone hungry? We've got a gorgeous spread back there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just come up with a list of where we feel like the most interest is shown and the task forces that we're gonna create. We'll let you guys go ahead and mingle and have lunch and eat and introduce yourself to someone new. Make some friends, and then we'll reconvene shortly.